What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Mindful Gains. I'm Bryce, and in this video, I want to talk about 5 lessons that I learned when I smoked weed again after quitting. Now, first, I just have to say that I am super thankful and super grateful for everyone who checked out my previous weed video. That's my highest viewed video. I mean, it doesn't have like thousands and thousands of views, but it's working its way up there. And I'm just grateful that some people have checked it out, leaving comments, sharing their journey. And yeah, I really appreciate it. I just wanted to thank anybody who clicked on that video. Now, the video that I'm referencing, I did that some months back. And I talk about how I quit smoking weed for a few months after smoking for like decades. And I share 5 things that I had experienced when I quit smoking. With that being said, I had stopped smoking for a little bit. But like everybody's favorite pot smoker, I started to backslide a little bit. And I started smoking like, say, once every 2 weeks. And I remember when I first did that, coming off that break, and it was like, whoa, it was like a psychedelic experience. It was like I ate some mushrooms or something like that, but that's a whole nother video. So with that experience, I was smoking like once every 2 weeks to begin with. And then I was smoking like twice a week. And then it came to like 3 times a week. And before I knew it, I was hitting something pretty much daily again. I wasn't smoking like a large quantity. I wasn't like smoking blunts or anything like that back to back. But I was kind of hitting something a few times out the day. And I just want to share what I experienced once I started doing that and where I'm at now with it. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. If you're into personal development, self-improvement, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel so that you know when I drop more content just like this. All right. The first thing I learned when I started smoking weed again, or I should say maybe the first thing I noticed how it was affecting my sleep. Now, in my previous video, I talk about how you deal with crazy dreams and stuff like that when you quit smoking weed initially. But when I started smoking again, and I'm talking about when I was back on that smoking daily again, I started to notice like, okay, now the dreams are gone. I'm not dreaming anymore. And being a guy that works out, and I value my sleep, and I value that well-rested feeling, I just kind of felt like a piece of the pie was missing. Like a slice had been taken out of the pie, and I didn't feel like completely just rested all the time. And one of the key ways that I started to notice this, like in physical form, was I started to notice I was getting bags under my eyes. And I already kind of got some dark like pigmentation under my eyes, but this was a bit more extreme. It had me kind of in the mirror like, damn, like, why are my eyes getting so dark? Like I'm getting 7.5 hours of sleep every night. It's not like I'm running off of 4 hours of sleep or anything like that. And the only thing that had really changed in my life was that I was back to kind of smoking a little bit more here and there. And I'm like, damn, is that really how it's showing up in a physical form? Like my eyes were always puffy, especially if I had smoked kind of like closer to bedtime. They were puffy. They started getting them dark circles up underneath of them. And that was kind of like the main sign where I was like, all right, I got to change something here. I'm not liking how these circles are kind of developing under my eyes. And I'm pretty sure that it's from the weed. And I'm pretty sure that it's because I'm not getting any REM sleep. Now, I'm not a doctor. I don't know that 100%, but that was the only variable that had really changed in my life. So that was definitely one of the first things I learned, that weed really does affect your REM sleep, and you'll start to notice it show up in different ways. And for me personally, it was showing up under my eyes, and I was not feeling that. Now, the second lesson that I learned when I started smoking weed again was that I was not respecting the herb. I was abusing the herb. I wasn't respecting the power of weed. All right, let me peel this back a little bit. When I've smoked regularly, every day, whether it was this little window of time that I'm talking about right now, or in my past, the weed starts to lose its like potency, it feels like, and you just get used to it, and your body has adapted to how it makes you feel. As I'm sure people who smoke weed, you know what I'm talking about. Now, when I started smoking like infrequently, when I was kind of smoking once every 2 weeks, I really was hit hard by the weed. I was really kind of like, all I can say is it put me in the cosmos. You know what I mean? Like it took me on a whole different wavelength that I hadn't really experienced in a while. I'm sitting here journaling and stuff. I'm sitting here working through things, and I was like, whoa, okay. It's been a while since I've ever experienced anything like this. I really started to notice and started to learn that you got to respect weed. I was taking it for granted. I was taking the potency for granted. I was taking how it affects me for granted, and just thinking that I could smoke at any given time and that I'm going to be as sharp and as effective as I am in any other time that I'm smoking. But that's a key thing that I learned, like to respect the herb and don't abuse it, because it has really powerful properties when we use it a certain way. The third thing that I learned is to piggyback off that second one of like respecting the power of weed, was that weed is powerful, but it's even more powerful when it's used with intention. I wasn't doing that. I was using it very recklessly and very unconsciously. That's what I had done in my past. So when I was younger and smoking heavily and stuff like that, it was kind of like that. Hey, we smoke weed. This is what we do. It's a social thing. We pass the blunts around. We do whatever we're listening to music. We're vibing, and that's cool too. I'm not trying to say that that's necessarily a bad thing. When it's used consciously and when it's used with intention, man, it can take you to another level, especially if you're into like self-improvement and if you're into personal development and stuff like that. When you're mindful with your weed use, it's powerful, and it can really show you some things if you're ready to receive them. The fourth thing that I learned when I started smoking weed again was that it was taking me to a negative mindset initially, but when I really started to understand that what seemed like it was negative, it was actually showing me something that I can improve on if I embrace the process. So when I would smoke weed again, I would deal with that like anxiety type feeling in the first early stages of the high. And I'd be like, damn, why is this weed taking me here again? Like, I'm not trying to be thinking about something that I said earlier in the day to whomever and how I should have said it better, and got me all kind of in my head. Like, that's what it was doing. It was putting me back in my head. And after taking a break from being in my head all the damn time, I didn't like being there again. But I noticed that's where the weed was pulling me to. And, I started to realize that, all right, what is this trying to show me? Is it trying to even show me anything? So I started to realize that what felt like something negative, it was really spotlighting something that I can work on or something that I can improve on, and provided me an opportunity to dig deeper into myself and to find little things that I can work on. This took a lot of self-awareness to even realize. I feel like if maybe you're lacking self-awareness, or maybe if you don't know yourself to a degree, it's hard to kind of receive what the weed is trying to show you, because you'll just be taken on the ride. You'll be pulled into your thought processes and be overthinking and overanalyzing. Don't get me wrong. Some people, I think, enjoy that. And that's cool. More power to you. But I think when you can put the awareness on what's happening and where the weed is taking you, I think that's when you're reaching like next levels with it. The fifth thing that I learned when I started smoking weed again was that there is a big difference in using weed to cope and handle problems that we run into, as opposed to using it mindfully. We fall into these traps where we're so used to running to weed whenever we experience some uncomfortable type of shift internally. Like, oh, I need to smoke something. I need to clear my head. And like, hey, if that works for you, that works for you. But I think it can develop into like an unhealthy habit. Like I said, especially if you lack self-awareness. Before you know it, you're smoking all the time and you're using weed as a crutch to comfort yourself. For me personally, I know that was a problem for me. It just became second nature. Weed became like a friend to me. It's like what I ran to whenever I experienced some type of discomfort. And it would just put me in that hole, that mental fog. And now I'm thinking about this for the next couple of hours. especially when I didn't know how to apply awareness to my weed use, which I do now. So what I learned was that being mindful with weed and using it in a healthy manner and using it to teach yourself something rather than to mask a problem, I learned was very beneficial for me. So I know you hear me talking about self-awareness quite a bit. I think self-awareness is very important, and it can help us in a lot of different ways. But if you're interested in self-awareness, what it is, how to improve it, I do have a video on that as well. I'll be sure to leave a link for that. I'll also leave that link to my previous weed video. So ultimately, like I said in my other videos, that I'm not anti-weed. I do think it has its place for certain people, maybe not everybody, but for those people where it may have a place in your life, I think that applying intention and applying mindfulness to your weed use or your weed practice, as I should say, I think it can have some really like beneficial properties to it, but only when it's used with intention. I think when it's used recklessly, when it's abused, it just becomes a problem, and that problem can spiral and it can bleed over to other aspects of your life. So that's why I think it's key to make sure that you're really leveling up your awareness. You really become in tune with yourself, how your body and your mind respond to certain things, because ultimately that's the key, your mindset. So where I'm at right now is I'm smoking like maybe once every 2 weeks. I'm back into that realm. It's not a daily thing for me. I don't want them black circles coming up under my eyes all crazy again. And I enjoy dreaming. I enjoy getting a complete night's rest and waking up and feeling like my mental is sharp as well as my physical. So I do dabble infrequently right now. And when I do, like I said, it takes me to the cosmos. So I'm intentional with it. I make sure that like I'm respecting the plant. I know what this plant can do. I'm not taking it for granted. I embrace what it's going to show me whenever I do partake in it. If anybody out there is kind of struggling with their weed use or trying to find healthier ways to use it, or how they can even, what does that even look like? Just leave me some comments below. I'd love to hear your journey, to hear your story, to hear how weed is affecting you in your life, whether it be negative, positive, balanced, whatever. I appreciate everybody clicking on that previous video. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see y'all in the next video. All right, I'm out. Peace.